So, this is our yoga therapy program. It is trauma informed and faith infused. And I think that's just a beautiful way to look at it. And that's me. Y'all already know I am a yoga therapist in private practice in Tyler, Texas. I deal predominantly with trauma, nervous system work. I see individuals and couples. I do some group work. I do some work in the community with different organizations. And just really I just say yes when God asks me if I want to do something. I just go, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's go. So, all right. So, what is yoga therapy? That is a hard one to define. And if you sign up for the program, you will get immediate access to our first module, which is self-paced, which is intro to yoga therapy. And in that module, you will see many, many definitions of yoga therapy. And you will also have the opportunity to write your own definition of yoga therapy. But according to the International Association of Yoga Therapists, yoga therapy is the process of empowering individuals to progress toward improved health and well-being through the application of the teachings and practices of yoga. So I think that's pretty good definition. So, and then our definition is that at the heart of yoga therapy is a willingness to meet people where they are, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and walk alongside them as a compassionate, supportive witness to their healing journey. So people are not always going to be where we maybe think they are or should be. And clients are not always going to end up where we maybe hoped they would, and maybe they do. But the goal is to walk alongside them and care for them and show them God's love and meet them exactly where they are. All right. So we have three goals: to educate, to equip, and empower you to pursue this call to a healer's vocation. So, educate. We want you to have the knowledge and know your stuff. The trauma module, for example, is there's it's very beefy. There's a lot there, and the reason for that is because when I finished yoga therapy training, I was working at a holistic counseling and wellness center, and there was a lot of terminology that the counselors were using that was unfamiliar to me and that I did not learn in yoga therapy training. So I had to kind of teach myself a lot of things. And so it's really important to us that you feel like you have the foundation of information, regardless of kind of what your background is and how you're coming into this, that you do have the head knowledge. But if we just have the head knowledge and we don't know what to do with it, then we just have the head knowledge, right? So we also want to equip you in a very practical and realistic way to work with clients and to care for people and to have practices, to have the head knowledge and then have a lot of very practical things, somatic practices, breath work, just all the things, even just the logistics of how you pursue this and how you weave it in with the other things you're doing with your life and how you go into practice. Even, I mean, you get all the documents, you get release of information, waivers, all the things just that I had to figure out for myself. I'm going to give you all of that. So we want to really equip you in a very practical way, not only to work as a yoga therapist and know what is expected of you in terms of documentation, but also be able to be equipped to work with clients and feel like you have a vast toolbox of tools that you can use. And then to empower you to feel like you are really prepared and that that you finish this program and you have the head knowledge, you have all the practical tools, and that through the practicum, which is 150 hours, you have been working with clients all along. Our practicum does not start. There's some programs that you do the educational part and then you go into the practicum. Our practicum starts immediately. Um, we have intro to yoga therapy, which is self-paced. You can do it over the summer. Trauma in the nervous system starts in September, and you will start practicum work if you choose to. You don't have to, but we have it set up so that you start practicum working with clients within that module. And there will be modules that you will do a mini practicum within that module that might be a 10-hour practicum. And then once you've finished all the educational pieces, you'll still have some practicum work left to do. But the goal is for you to feel really empowered and really comfortable, and for you to graduate and feel like you are ready and you have the knowledge, you have the tools, and you have the confidence. So, yeah, in this picture, well, that picture was from Tend and Befriend in Parker last fall, and we'll be doing that again this fall. And it will be an experiential in-person training retreat that's part of the trauma. Like it falls kind of, while we're in the trauma and nervous system module. So if you've already done it, like Wendy Donley, you've already done it. So you get credit for that. You don't have to come again. So you get credit for that. And then like Jody was in Texas when we did the trauma training, and she gets credit for that.
So let's talk while we're here just a little bit about why we think the in-person is a good idea. For me, and getting to just even be a part of it, it felt like deep soul care in my own life. I didn't realize how retreat-like it felt, getting to be a part of these somatic practices, getting to just fully immerse myself in some of the trauma-informed practices that we were doing. It was time in community. It was time in practice. I mean, we are all servant leaders, and this is the challenge, right? To stay with practice in our own lives. And it was a reminder of what a great idea this yoga and Jesus stuff is, what a great idea community is, and what a safe place that we've created for the wounded healers to experience a new layer of healing. I mean, it's always new, isn't it? I mean, we think that we've done the work, and then all of a sudden we're in a pile of tears wondering why we're moving through something new. And I feel like it's the kindness of the Lord to invite us into those deeper places so that we can have confidence in how we're bringing this to the world. Like, this is a good idea. This is necessary. This is a real hole that's missing in our world, what we do as holistic practitioners. So, I understand that financially it doesn't work for everyone, but if it can work, we've got very discounted hotel rooms in Parker. You would fly into the Denver airport. The next one is November 5th through 8th. And again, if you've already done it, you don't have to do it again. If you want to do it again, join us. Yeah.
Well, and Kristen, I agree so much with what you say, that to experience some of these things for ourselves really enriches our ability to offer those experiences to others as we go forward. All right. So if you've already done the 300, you're almost halfway there. So yoga therapy as a whole picture is 800 hours. If you've done the 300, you've got 300 hours under your belt already. And then yoga therapy part 2. So the Living Souls 300 will also be considered yoga therapy part 1. And then yoga therapy part 2 is 350 plus, maybe a little more, depending on the electives you take, of synchronous and asynchronous curriculum, and then 150 hours of practicum. So these are some of the subjects that we will be covering. I'm still working through the details of what, as it relates to the competencies, what is core curriculum and what is an elective. It's really important to us. I want you to be able to take the modules that really speak to you, right? Like I want you, I want you to have some flexibility within this program that, if working with couples really appeals to you, that you have the opportunity to take that as, as an elective, or you know, whatever it is that you're interested in. I want you to feel like you get exactly what you're looking for. And the other thing that's going to be really cool about this program is that, we'll have the core curriculum and the electives. And let's just throw it out there. Let's say that grief and addiction are both electives, just using that as an example. And let's say that you really are interested in both. Well, if you take grief while you're doing the training, then later you're going to need continuing education hours. IAT requires that for you to maintain your CIYT. And so maybe later on, when you need continuing education hours, you can take addiction for continuing ed. And we'll price those a la carte for that. So that's kind of my big picture vision, that you really have the opportunity, within the parameters of what IIYT requires of us for competencies, that you really have the opportunity to explore the modules that you feel like are going to be the most beneficial to you, and that you're the most interested in and excited about within the structure that we are required to provide. So does that make sense? So
Can you check the chat? I can't see it from my
oh,
viewpoint.
let me
Okay.
look. Okay, hang on. Yes. Oh, you've not done the 200. So yes, that doing your 200-hour is a prerequisite. IAYT requires that you have completed your 200-hour. Those 200 hours don't count towards yoga therapy, but it is a requirement that you have completed a 200-hour program. And then you would move into, you could do the Living Soul 200, and then you could move into the 300, which is yoga therapy part 1, and then you could progress into the rest of yoga therapy. So, and what's really cool, Kristen mentioned this, and this is another thing that I've really like is really important, and I'm really fired up about, is that the the incredible team we've assembled who are teaching these different modules didn't just go learn about it. They're actually working. Um, they're in the trenches on the ground, like they know their stuff in these different areas of expertise, and I think that's so important, to really have somebody teaching a module who is an expert on it and who's really working in that area. So, any questions?
There's a couple more chats.
Okay, let me look. Okay. Oh, you're very welcome. Okay, good deal. All right. Okay. Y'all ready to move on to the next slide? So there we go. The path to becoming a yoga therapist. The prerequisites are your 200-hour from Living Soul or another qualified school. And then yoga therapy part 1 is being an RYT 500. So the 300-hour certificate from Living Soul or another qualified school. So what we will do is, if you got your 300 somewhere else, because obviously we're basing this whole curriculum on Living Souls 300. If you got your 300 somewhere else, then we'll get with you one-on-one. Kristen and I will help make sure that everything is aligned and that you're ready to move into part 2 based on what you took in your 300. Do you have anything to add to that, Kristen?
Just that we're not going to make it impossible. or for you,
Yeah.
and I believe that with having gone through Yoga Alliances, we 300 hour, we have similar requirements. So we just want to make sure that you kind of have an understanding of basics. Like in our 300 hour, we do basics of Enneagram training, things like that, that we will be building upon as we do a 10-month soul care program in the yoga therapy and 300 this year, which is going to be called The Connected Soul. It's going through the spiritual rhythms for the Enneagram book, one chapter at a time, talking about head, heart, gut harmony, talking about really building compassion for different lenses in which they see so that we can come alongside different personality styles, but also experience the spiritual formation pieces that are really helpful for people who are super heady, like head types, and illuminating their dismissed child so that they can be better in the practice of discernment. As a spiritual director, I really believe that a yoga therapist is maybe not a certified spiritual director, but very much a spiritual director when working with people of faith who are looking at the whole picture of their lives with God, and understanding things of how to deal with image of God issues, or deconstruction, reconstruction stuff that's coming up for them. Church hurts and abuse and things like this is all a part of who we are, and it's something that you will address. So this 10-month spiritual formation program starting in September will be, and I'll send each of you as a follow-up, and you can also get it on the yoga therapy website. Both the 300 hour and yoga therapy will be involved in this Tuesday nights once a month. And it's kicked off by Claire and Scott Lowridge, pastors of a church and the writers of Spiritual Rhythms for the Enneagram with Adele and Doug Calhoun. So they're going to be, if you did Invitations from God with us, that's another program, spiritual formation program that you can get credit for yoga therapy, which is great. But moving forward, we're going to offer these in 10-month little teased out programs every other year. So we're excited about that. We feel like it allows you to just grow your roots a little bit deeper. And yeah, I talk too much? Sorry.
No, you're great.
There you go.
Yeah.
Got excited.
Yeah.
The
So
spiritual formation piece.
these are the options for you to come and experience all of this in person. As Kristen said, there's going to be one November 5th through 8th in Parker, which will be if you came to Texas, Jody did, or if you were at Tend and Befriend in November, it will be mostly that same programming. And then we're going to do one in the spring, and it will be a little bit different. So if you came to Tend and Befriend and you've got credit for that already, but you want to do another in person, and and you want to pick up some different information, the one in April will not be the exact same thing repeated. It will be different. Kristen
And
can
I'll
talk.
talk a little bit to that because we're getting closer. It's going to be likely somewhere in the Midwest, we're hoping. And Dr. Nicole Goddard, who some of you know from Cincinnati, is a functional med doc. She's RYT 500. She is phenomenal, works with geriatric populations a lot, but she's our orthopedic specialist here, and functional med doc. And so the vision really is more of that in-person work from orthopedics, like really understanding the body-based stuff coming in. What do I do with a frozen shoulder? Like, yes, I understand this could be hormonal. I understand this could be whatever, but it could also be functional. And I obviously can't diagnose. But as a yoga therapist, we're movement therapists. So, understanding a little bit more about different conditions coming into our space, how people are recovering from, joint replacements, you name it. And then myofascial release, and also some chair work. a real burden I feel is just the awareness of my own parents aging right now and goodness, like just losing their juice for life. We call it life force, chi, purpose, right? And I think yoga therapists have a way to keep people moving, mobile, hopeful in community, in all these things. And so that April one is going to really have a physical focus. And we just need to nail down where, but that's the dream. Yeah.
And I'm going to throw in a few more trauma pieces. I could easily do like a 7-day intensive with y'all and share all the things I do in practice with clients. But I'll be throwing in some things that weren't included in Tend and Befriend. And then I think in the spring, hopefully Andrea is going to join us and teach us a little bit about somatic IFS, which is internal family systems, and the way she works with clients and that. So I'm excited um, about April, and it for those of you who came to the Texas trauma training or to Tend and Befriend in Parker last year, it'll give you some additional things to work with and explore.
Would
So
you check the chat again, please?
let's see. Wendy says those April dates are secure, question mark. I will be there. I want to protect that weekend whenever it is.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they're at least checked out with the Easter holidays. So, yes, they're on my schedule.
Awesome. All right. What's next, Kristen? Okay, mentored practicum. So I talked a little bit about that a few minutes ago. So IAYT requires 150 hours of mentored practicum. So like I said, instead of waiting, now, I mean, if you choose to, if you want to wait until the very end of all the educational part and you just want to do all your practicum work all at once, that's fine. That's definitely your choice. But the way we've structured this is that you will actually have the opportunity to begin working with clients and doing your practicum work right from the start. We will have practicum calls that where we will come together and we can brainstorm and we can say, oh, I'm running into this. Has anyone else run into this? Do you have any suggestions? I'll be on the practicum calls. We'll bring in different experts, different trainers on the different practicum calls. You'll also have access to me via email, text, whatever. We can set up a Zoom. If you're running into something in your practicum that you need help with. So I want you to really feel supported in that and feel like you're getting from us what you need to feel really confident as you proceed with your practicum. So like I said earlier, some of the modules have a practicum built in, trauma, for example. Let's say you choose to take addiction as a module, as an elective. And then let's say, you've tried to find someone to work with to do a practicum and you can't find anybody, whether it's in person or virtual or whatever. The 10 hours that are allotted for that addiction practicum, if you can't find anybody to work with, you can move those 10 hours over into what I call your big practicums, which you will do at the end. So I want you to feel like you have flexibility. I also want to make sure it's really clear, and I say this in the intro to yoga therapy, that you will be responsible for keeping up with all of your hours. You're responsible for keeping up with your learning hours, and you're responsible for keeping up with your practicum hours. So, but I just want you to know and have the confidence that if you take a module and you just cannot find anyone to work with on that topic, that is okay. You can just apply those hours to your big practicum later on. So you'll have these, I'm calling them mini practicums that are within modules. And then at the end, you'll do two big practicums based on how many hours you still need. One will be with an individual and one will be with a small group, meaning like 3 to 5 people. They will be on the topic of your choice or the topic that you have people available. Um, you are going to need to do 100 of those 150-hour practicum hours with an individual, and 50 can be with a group. And beyond those, you can kind of tweak it. We can't go over 50 with a group. The other thing that is optional and encouraged but is not required. So you'll have your mentor, and that'll be me this first go round with some help from Andrea and Kristen and Sarah Randall, but I'll be your official mentor. Um, what we're going to encourage you to do and invite you to do is to find someone either in person in your community or maybe online who you can connect with. So, for example, let's say that addiction is what you are really interested in, and that is the direction you want to move toward as a yoga therapist. So I would encourage you to find someone, we're going to call them an advisor, and maybe it's a counselor who works with addiction. Maybe it's someone at an addiction facility, whatever that looks like. They don't need to be a yoga therapist. But I want you to find someone that you can connect with. If you're really interested in low back pain or the orthopedic piece, maybe you find someone like Dr. Goddard, or maybe you find a chiropractor in your community or a massage therapist. I want you to find someone that you can connect with who's not a yoga therapist, but who's working in the realm that you think you may be particularly interested in. And the reason for that is that will give you some insight and some connection, and that will become a referral relationship as you move through this process and you graduate and move into practice as a yoga therapist. And it might become a job, who knows? But like I said, that is optional and encouraged. It's not required. It's not an IIYT requirement. It's something that I think is could be very beneficial and helpful to you as you move forward. And it could just be having coffee with that person, once a quarter or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anything super structured. You don't have to turn anything in about it. It's just something that I wish I had had the opportunity to do and had been encouraged to do. And I think it would be really helpful and beneficial. So just finding someone that you can connect with who is working in some way, shape, or form in the area of expertise that you think you might be interested in. So does anybody have questions about practicum or any of the aspects of that?
I love the idea that you are yoga teachers, you're certified yoga teachers, right? So within these conversations, within these connections you're making in your community, how beautiful to offer yourself as a partner to them. I think of what Andrea does. She works with a counseling office, and they know that as talk therapists, they can only go so far. And then they hand off to Andrea with disclosure papers and all the things that she's going to follow so that she can then be in the room with their nervous system and help them begin to move some of the trauma. So, like, it's not just sitting back and watching everybody doing these things, but offering your services to them right away, which is part of the empowerment piece that you're going to come out of here and you're already doing the job at the end of this training. Yeah, you'll have the letters and the certification and be able to maybe work for hospital systems at places that you wouldn't without the credentialing, but you're already doing it. So
And you're going to
that's,
have the connections
yes.
that you're going to feel like you finish and you're connected with some people that are doing similar work, and you can build on those relationships. Okay, this is so cool. So, um, So I'm on here, Kristen's on here, Sarah Randall. Y'all can, like Kristen said, you can watch that video. She is a yoga therapist in Washington State who somehow found her way to us, and we are so thankful. She's awesome. She's also a spiritual director. She's in spiritual director training. Andrea, Katie Pearson, I'm sure a lot of you know Katie, and Jen Albritton, Dr. Kimberly Hicks, who is an MD and specializes in working with people with eating disorders, is teaching the eating disorders curriculum. Some of you may know Pam Minsimer, who is herself a veteran and teaches yoga to veterans. She has written an incredible module on it's called Working with the Thin Lines community, and it's working with active duty veterans and first responders and the traumas that are unique to them. Holly Manahar, if you know her, she's amazing, and we have a whole women's health piece, and it's 3 different modules that all come together. Holly has written part 1 and part 2, which the first one is fertility. I'm learning things from Holly at age 53 that it would have been nice if I had known earlier in life. But about just working with women over the course of their cycle. Part 2, she focuses more on infertility, PCOS. And then part 3 of the women's health program is called The Pause. And I wrote it. It's perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and andropause. And that's a hot topic these days. And then Julie Ignaz, if you were at Tend and Befriend, you got to benefit from her coming and playing her sound bowls. She's written a little module on sound therapy. Katie Barnhart's working on the chair stuff. And then Georgia, for those of you who know Georgia was at Tend and Befriend, and Georgia's an attorney. And she said to me at one point, I don't know how I'm ever gonna she retired, but she's like, I don't know how I'm ever gonna combine my worlds. And so one of the things we needed was someone with a legal background to help us with our policies and procedures manual and make sure that, you know, we're checking all our boxes there. And so I called Georgia and said, hey, I have an opportunity for you to combine your worlds. And so she's also helping on the admin side with the learning platform. As if any of y'all know Katie Barnhart, she's pregnant and she is due in August on my birthday. And so Georgia is stepping in and helping with that. So just incredibly grateful. Like I said, and you are getting this incredibly talented group of people who know their stuff and who are doing the work in their areas of expertise. So I couldn't be more excited. Okay, so looking at the cost, and Kristen can, if you have specific questions, Kristen can help you navigate this. But obviously, if you've attended Tend and Befriend or you came to the trauma training in Texas, you're going to be prorated for that. If you've already done Invitations from God, you're going to be prorated for that. So there's all your numbers.
So the way that we're doing it, many of you have already completed 300 hours. Some of you might be a few modules short, and you can talk to me about that, getting you kind of queued up to start part 2. In 3 being the practicum is what we're saying. So it's kind of all woven into one. But we're offering now a painful discount. So you can see up front for those starting the 300 hour, the painful discount is a great deal in it. I think it really helps you afford going to the Tend and Befriend training retreat if you haven't done that. I really want to encourage you just to, especially when you're doing a program like in my spiritual direction program, we were together in a cohort for 2 years. To have that face-to-face time, to have this type of community, this is like friends forever. So it's very special to be able to do that. But again, we realize that it can't always happen. Same thing for part 2. We're offering that pay in full discount, but we do have a 500 down payment plan if that doesn't work for you. So then prorated for if you've attended Tend and Befriend, or let's say the trauma training, not both, but one of those. and Invitations from God, reach out to me. I'll give you the specific code for to prorate that. It's just a lot of like moving parts and codes, and we didn't want to put it all on the website because it's really confusing. So reach out to me. I know your situation, and I'll make sure that you have the right pricing. Um, and just know that this is pilot program pricing. A yoga therapy program, if you've done any research out there, can be around $20,000. And I looked at one that was closer to $40,000. And this is, if you look at the total price of, under, $10,000, it's a great deal. So, just know that and reach out to me with any of the payment questions. And if you have any questions now, please let me know.
So I have a question real quick, just for clarity purposes. When you say it's a pilot program pricing, that means that when it's not a pilot program, therefore the price will probably increase, correct? Okay.
Correct.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yes, correct.
Awesome.
It's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean, we just want to be, we believe that this is going to be the best program, especially when it comes to faith-based.
Mhm.
It's tricky, right? Like yoga therapy programs, if you've done any research on yoga therapy programs, it's very yogi. And so, depending on the lineage of the teacher, you can kind of feel like you're lost in a sea of the Bhagavad Gita. And, there's so much wisdom coming from these cultures and texts and things like that. But really, we're on the same team in that we're looking at the whole person. Are we going to teach things like the kleshas in yoga philosophy? Yes, we will. You will learn, just like you learned about the yamas and niyamas, what the yogis say about suffering, but we're always coming from a scriptural lens of our scripture, which is the Bible. And so it's important. I've taken many programs that were wonderful that didn't have a faith-based approach, but I always felt like I was starving to connect the dots in my own faith life. And this program will do that for you, but hopefully just open you up not only to serve people of the Christian faith, to serve any person of any faith. That would be the real desire here. But that's so when we compare ourselves to the other faith-based program, we at least want to be comparable, and they are a lot more than this pilot program. Mhm.
okay. So Georgianne has a question. How long will part two and part three program take? So IOIT's requirement is that a whole yoga therapy program be a minimum of 2 years to complete. So, obviously, if you've already done the 300, you've already done the 300. And our goal is, and we're still kind of working on the schedule, but our goal is for the part two curriculum to be somewhere between 18 months and 2 years to complete, depending on your electives. And then really the practicum is up to you because it's a matter of when you complete all the practicum hours. So, like I said, a lot of programs you do all your learning and then you start the practicum. And we're starting our practicum while we're learning, or at least giving you the option to do that. So really, I can't give you a hard and fast. This is exactly how long it'll take because it will depend on when you complete that practicum piece. Does
Yeah.
that help?
I think that's really up again, the motivation of the trainee. If you are motivated, you start your practicum right away, you can expect to have this credentialing in 18 months. If you need a little bit more time, there's grace here, and it just might take another 6 months to be able to move through the practicum. Really up to you.
I have a,
Any
I have a question. Lucy, are you going to talk about just the IAYT portion at the end at all?
um Like what part of it?
Well, like, isn't there a choice to like the test and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, you have to take the test. Yeah. Now to get your certification, you have to take the, sorry, I have company. You have to you have to pass the scope of practice, and that's all in the intro to yoga therapy module. And then I repeat it in the logistics. But yes, IYT requires that they have a couple of things that you have to pass, like you have to take their scope of practice quiz and some things like that in order. But you'll be totally prepared for them, and you will have already seen all of it. So
So
Good.
this isn't like the bar
yeah, it's not the bar.
because
It,
you just lost half of us when we
no,
heard test.
no, it's
I
no,
just
it's
wanted to make sure people understand that,
Yeah.
like, there's a test at the end to be an IYT yoga therapist.
yeah, it's easy. You'll be fine. If I can pass it, anybody can pass it. So yeah. So all right. So I love these quotes. In my deepest wound, I saw your glory, and it dazzled me. Saint Augustine. And the glory of God is man fully alive. I love that. Um, so many people walk into my office and they're not fully alive. And just having the opportunity to sit with them and be with them, that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned that I'm going to try to share with y'all as we go through this process as much as I can about what I've learned and where I've made mistakes. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I made early on in my practice was I felt like I had to give people, value for their time and money. And I think there were times when I didn't listen to someone's nervous system and I didn't listen to the Holy Spirit. And I may have rushed through a session trying to cram in as many things as I could. And over time, I've gotten slower with the work and a lot more responsive to someone's nervous system. And and I'll say this, and y'all know this when you teach class, like you can have a plan for what you're going to do in that class. And then you show up to teach and you have someone who's been practicing yoga for 20 years and you have a pregnant person and you have someone who needs a chair, right? Like, has anybody ever been in that situation? And you're like, okay, well, what I had planned is I'm going to throw out the window and we're going to do a lot of modifications and we're going to keep it real simple. And it's the same thing with yoga therapy. Last week on was it Monday? It was Monday, I think. I had two clients, and I had plans for both of them based on what we kind of where we are. And one of them walked in, and she had been on a trip, and she had traveler's tummy, and she was constipated, and she was getting ready to go to Houston for a cancer checkup, and she was just a wreck. And so I totally threw out what I had planned for the day, and we did something totally different. And she basically never got off the floor, and did a lot of breathing and a lot of restorative work. And I used my singing bowls on her. And then I got a text later that afternoon that she pooped. She was so happy. um, and then my other client, I had a plan for her, and she texted me. She was already late, and she texted me and said, I have my 12-year-old niece with me. And it was clear to me that what the work we were going to do that day was going to have to shift. And so that's one of the beauties of this work is that you can be flexible, and you really can meet people where they are. And when you need to throw your plan out the window, you throw your plan out the window and meet them where they are and tend to where they are in the moment. So let's see, Georgianne. What would you estimate time commitments to be each week? It sounds like there are some online sessions. Yes. So the intro to yoga therapy is self-paced. And then once we launch in the fall, there will be, so we'll lead off with trauma in the nervous system. So there will be a Zoom on Thursdays that will be recorded. It will be from 12 to 2 Central. And I mean, obviously, not everybody can always be on the Zooms. And so you will have your synchronous work in the Zoom, and then you'll have homework assignments, and it's going to vary from module to module, but I would say you'll have several hours a week of reading. And then Kristen mentioned the embodied Enneagram spiritual formation. That Zoom will be once a month. And then we're going to have two during the fall, during trauma in the nervous system. We're going to have two, what we're calling Saturday seminars that will be 90 minutes. And those will be open. Like if somebody who's in the 300 and isn't in yoga therapy wants to come check those out. One will be with Andrea Wittig, who is an adoptive mom, and she's going to talk about adoption trauma. And so that's just a really little specific topic that, we're not going to maybe spend a whole week on or whatever, but it's something we want to talk about. And then Kristen, the other one,
It's
the other
going to
Saturday.
be on racial
Okay.
trauma, on systemic trauma, things that many of us are not familiar with, but how do we come alongside somebody who carries that story? Yeah, that'll be in December, I believe. I have Georgianne I uploaded it yesterday to the therapy website. So if you go to livingsoulinstitute.com, click on 800 yoga therapy, kind of go down a little bit and you'll see a little section that says a sample syllabus for fall 2026. It'll give you a visual of what this fall is going to look like, and it will be very similar in the new year, but we're just trying to figure out, we're waiting to hear from IAYT on just like how to roll it out. We know that trauma is the foundation to everything, you guys. Like we're talking addiction, we're talking autoimmune, anything. It all comes back to the story, right, of our lives. And so that's going to be so central. It's important. That's why we're kicking off going into a deep dive there. And then we're just waiting to hear how the rest of it rolls out. So we didn't want to, but you'll have an idea of what it'll look like through that fall 2026 syllabus. Time commitment.
Does that help?
And I'm happy to follow up with an email here too, if that's helpful for you guys, to send you part one, which will be like an example of the fall 300 hour. If you've already done that, what the fall 200 hour looks like. Actually, I think I have the full 300 hour. So part one. We also take the summers off. So part of the delay in getting this is just so that you can have a life in the summers. And so we typically take July and August off, making the programs really 10 months. And there might be some self-paced things within that, which is helpful, but less of the weekly in as far as part one is concerned. Lucy might have something else to say as far as part two is concerned.
Yeah. We'll see we'll see
Yeah.
how we get it all in there. That's the hard part, is there's so much to share, and finding the balance and covering everything we want to cover and helping you feel educated, equipped, and empowered. So, all right. So, equipping us as wounded healers. No one escapes being wounded. We are all wounded people, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. The main question is not how can we hide our wounds so we don't have to be embarrassed, but how can we put our woundedness in the service of others? When our wounds cease to become a source of shame and become a source of healing, we have become wounded healers. Jesus is God's wounded healer. Through his wounds, we are healed. Jesus' suffering and death brought joy and life. His humiliation brought glory. His rejection brought a community of love. As followers of Jesus, we can also allow our wounds to bring healing to others. Henry Nouwen. So I think that's, really what it boils down to is we don't we don't have it all figured out. We're not all perfectly healed. I'll have a client say, well, how long is it going to take for me to be healed? And I'm like, till you get to heaven. Like, it's an ongoing process. We don't wake up one morning and go, okay, I'm healed. Let's go. There's always something to look at and examine in our lives. So,
are there any
anyone...
questions for Lucy specifically, somebody in practice right now, about kind of what you might be dreaming about and wondering if this is the path to take? And you can always reach out to Lucy on the side as well.
One thing I will say that I really love about yoga therapy, I mean, I'm a yoga therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a nutrition coach. I'm a yoga therapist. But one thing I really love is that yoga therapy can blend so well with whatever else you might already be doing or you might already be interested in. So, for example, if you're a spiritual director and you want to bring in more of this piece of it, you can blend those things, and that is a unique service that you can offer in your way. If you are a nutrition coach and that's what you are excited about and you want to do yoga therapy, you can blend those two together and offer them. And I just think that's one of the things that's really exciting about yoga therapy, is that it blends so beautifully. It stands on its own, but it also blends so beautifully with whatever else you might be already certified in or interested in or wanting to pursue. It just there's a lot of freedom there.
It makes me think of just Wendy, seeing you here and how many years you and Chad have been in ministry with couples, and like just kind of wondering like what a next step in private work could look like, like just looking at kind of, we're always saying this at Living Soul, the threads of your own life, and wondering, boy, why did I go through that? Or why do I keep being drawn back to this thing? Or, why is this in my view? And really asking God, could it be me to go deeper in that way? So, yeah.
Could I add something about that? Okay. And just looking ahead at the fall, and if you're in the middle of wondering, like I am, if this is next step for me, Kristen's invited me to lead a little book club, just really informal discussions. So we'll have one in the middle of July and one in the middle of August. I might throw one in just to kind of kick it off as well, but just having conversations about Sabbath and reading a book called The Rest of God by Mark Buchanan. And in that, just really informally thinking about how we can set aside time to cease from what we're doing all the time and to enjoy some rest this summer, practice delight, and meditate God or contemplate God together. So we'll be doing that separately, but getting to have informal conversations together. So I hope you'll join me for that.
Yeah, I'll be sending out information. I just asked Katie Barnhart to add it to an event tab on the website. So look for that. Just if you're looking for, it'll be a place of, slowing down so that you can discern the next season. Yeah. Questions before we go, and know that if they bubble up, Lucy, do you want to put your email in the chat for everybody?
Yes.
First, you can reach out to me with any questions. And we're just going to be starting to share more and more about this, and are happy to talk with you more. I think the greatest takeaway is the community piece. I mean, being in the learning community for me has been such a joy to go deeper and the transformation personally, continued transformation being in this community has changed my life, really. You guys have. So I hope that you would find that too in making a decision to kind of pilgrimage together as we do. All right. Well, I'll close this in prayer. And if you want to stay on with questions for Lucy or reach out at any point, you may. God, we thank you that we are even in a conversation of what it means to be a wounded healer, that we could have the awareness of how you have touched our wounds, how you have brought new awareness to us in the way that we can live with you, that we can trust you with all of it, with our entire story, God. And as we wonder if this is the direction you want us to go, would you speak to us? Would you remind us to find places of silence and solitude and stillness and discerning community this summer, that we can really lean into the question of whether yoga